If I could talk about, the whole fuel pricing policy and the fact that, there is a significant reduction in terms of the gap between diesel and petrol. What kind of a trend do you see in terms of the changing mix of cars, not only in India, but give me emerging markets versus Western markets?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, what we're clearly seeing is, and each market is a little different, but we're very used to dealing with the regulated pricing and pricing between petrol and diesel. Generally, what we're seeing is a growth in alternative fuels. Natural gas continues to grow around the world. Not everywhere. Ethanol continues to grow, especially in Brazil. It's 100% ethanol now. Electrification continues to grow. Many governments like China are putting requirements actually for electrification. Now the U.S. Is too. But even with that, electrification is still 3% of the U.S. industry. So we really see the internal combustion engine continuing to be the predominant, whether it's diesel or petrol, the predominant cost-effective choice for customers. In India, we have seen a really dramatic change. I remember being in a meeting here, or it was in Chennai about 1.5 years ago, and we were struggling with how do we get our diesel production up to where the customers' demands are, 70, 80, 90%. And I joked in the meeting and I said, you know what's going to happen, you guys? Right about when we're going to get the production perfectly right, the petrol price is going to get more attractive, and suddenly we're going to be trying to get more petrol. Well, sure enough, that's happened.
Sure.
And we are really continuing to try to make that adjustment.
Given that all multinational companies were focusing on emerging markets as the big, the growth, the growth fueler, what has happened, sadly, is that we've all hit, a slowdown of sorts, and the car market specifically is quite depressed. Globally, what is the thinking of the management and you as a marketer in, the next focus or the next region or, the next big change that you see to drive growth globally?
For us at Ford, our growth is really focused in the developing world, and especially small car markets. About 60%, we think about 60% of our growth between now and mid-decade will come just in Asia. Okay. And the two key countries there, part of it will be ASEAN, but the real growth is going to be India and China. I think for us, probably a bigger change that maybe not everyone's noticed is that we've reorganized the company around the Middle East and Africa, an area where the company had a business but wasn't laser focused at the top level of the company. And we see North Africa, Sub-Saharan Africa as really a huge growth opportunity for our company. There's a lot of new markets in where the population's really hitting the sweet spot in terms of wealth and car ownership, in Indonesia, Malaysia now, and Southeast Asia, that we'll continue to look at.
And your view on how the Western markets are performing?
Well, the situation is kind of different in each one. The U.S. is kind of really now almost a trend, if not higher than trend. The replacement demand, the fleet got very old. There was no help when the market collapsed, so we fell almost 50% in North America with no help from anyone. And now, so the fleet got old. The average car in the U.S. now is 11 years old. Wow. And people started to do the math between, do I repair my 11-year-old vehicle, buy a new one?
Right.
And as they did the math, it really fueled the growth in North America. So we're in a very healthy, positive industry in North America. Europe has really found bottom and starting to have some green shoots of growth now. And for us, we're starting to see that growth now. For the last 2 months, December, January, we have started to see the European industry expand. It's not everywhere. The UK is really leading it. We've seen some positive signs out of Germany in January. So we're cautiously optimistic in Europe.
If you can throw some light on how you're assessing the Indian retail sector and of course the evolving formats that we're seeing, and how that will play out to your advantage?
One of the unique aspects of India that I see is really the important role of the local shop owner in the smaller cities and in bigger cities. I think the bike companies have done a very good job in taking advantage of this. And the other thing is, many Indian automotive customers like to have a small shop or even themselves do the work. So the accessibility of repair parts all the way down to the most local level is really a key part of a successful brand in India. For Ford to be successful and innovate as a challenger brand, I think there's quite a few new things we could do in retailing to address these unique opportunities here. One example could be a much more affordable, light touch, very low capital intensive shop where people, maybe even without vehicle demonstrators there, could learn about the vehicles and maybe have someone remotely deliver a vehicle for a test drive. That kind of very small personal shop could be something that would work very well here in India.
On that note, thank you so much for joining us on Brand Equity. Truly a pleasure chatting with you, Jim.
My pleasure.